Hi everyone, my name is Veli Creative. I'm the co-founder of Sudden Coffee. My passion is to make really great coffee easy, fun, and accessible to a lot of people. And by a lot of people, I mean like millions of people or a billion of people. I've been a barista for about 8 or 9 years. I've actually been responsible for the coffee service at Slush for the past 3 years, not this year anymore. And this is a photo of my coffee shop that I opened about 3 years ago. And what I wanted to do there was to create a place where you could experience the best coffee, basically experience the best coffee could be. But ultimately what we wanted to do was to make people happy through great coffee. Like somebody comes in, we serve them great coffee, but we see the coffee more as a tool or a vehicle to make their day better, rather than something that holds a tremendous amount of like intrinsic value. Done a bunch of barista competitions. I'm 2-time Finnish barista champion, and I was ranked 9th best in the world last year. And running this shop, I got kind of frustrated by how unscalable it is to do that, what I'm really passionate about, making people happy through good coffee. So about a year and a half ago, I decided to close that and figure out a more scalable way, largely inspired by Slush, to do that. And an idea that I started looking into was making instant coffee that doesn't suck, simply. Like, how many here, raise your hands, how many of you here love instant coffee? Yeah, I mean, that's right. Instant coffee is great, said no one ever. And so how do you make something like that actually taste good? We ran some experimentations here, and turns out you can actually do that. And then I did what every college dropout dreams of doing, and moved to San Francisco about a year ago after Slush, and started a startup in a garage making instant coffee. So instant coffee is basically liquid coffee that's dehydrated. And the normal stuff starts with that coffee, like those really nasty beans. It's basically the crappiest coffee in the world mixed into instant coffee. And then the coffee is brewed. And now is kind of a bit of a technical term, but I'm explaining it very simply. So extraction yield is basically when you brew coffee, it means how much stuff you get out of the bean by weight. And here's a simple chart explaining what you want to go. So you want to get to about 20%. That's where the party is. That's when you get like a sweet, nice, balanced cup. If you go more, you start getting these nasty, bitter notes. And now, when they brew instant coffee, they actually normally brew the coffee twice. So they brew it once, so they get up to about 20%, and then they brew it again, so they get up to 60% extraction yield. So 3 times as much as you normally want. So you get this really nasty, woody, bitter coffee. That's then basically boiled down and dehydrated, sprayed with hot air. And like this was the starting point. How do you try to make something like this actually taste good? So we took the sort of startup mantra of doing things that don't scale to the heart. And we got this place in a garage, and I got an espresso machine, and I started making shots of espresso by hand, and then dehydrating that. And turns out you can actually do that, and we started scaling from there up to a point where we had a full-time person who was there 40 hours a week pulling espresso shots that we then would basically dehydrate and turn into Sudden Coffee, which we sell in these cute little red tubes. And the idea is that you can get a great cup of coffee when you just add it to water. You can have it anywhere with cold water, hot water, or milk. And sort of the challenges with this have been quite significant. Like Nestle hasn't figured out how to make good instant coffee. How does a small startup with a food science university dropout, and my co-founder who did industrial engineering and operations at McKinsey, actually make this happen and scale it? And that's been an interesting project. And we're now basically scaled from that to a point where we ran larger batches of coffee using basically like 1,200 kilos of beans at a time. It's that much that you actually need a forklift to lift them up, which is quite exciting. So we started shipping our first coffees about a year ago. We're based in San Francisco now. We moved to our own factory last spring. And it's sort of, the reception so far has been pretty good. We were featured on the New York Times in July. They called it the instant coffee you'll actually want to drink. And believe it or not, there's a barista magazine. It's a big thing in the coffee industry. It's like the Time for people who make coffee, I guess. And I happen to be the cover of the recent issue. And just on Tuesday, we announced our latest seed round. So we raised a 2.7 million seed round from Charles River Ventures to basically continue scaling this process. I was asked here to pitch on sort of a last minute, so I'm kind of figuring out the stage where we're at now is probably a little earlier than most companies here. We basically closed our seed round. We're about 7 people now, and the biggest issue has been making enough, like we being constrained by capacity because we were basically making the coffee very manually. We've now been able to find a solution how we can brew the coffee in these larger batches, so it's actually more scalable. But then partly, when we actually dehydrate the coffee, we figured out that it's more effective. We found a better way, cheaper way to do that in-house than actually outsource. And so, I guess now we have figured out a more scalable way of doing that, and it's going to be interesting to see what we can take it from there. Thank you very much.
Do you want? Very cool. Thanks a lot. Can you tell us a little bit, how are you going to educate your customer that they actually receiving a much better quality, right? I mean, they're going to pay more for it than they would for a Nestle coffee. Like, what are you doing to kind of put that brand out and make consumers aware that this is the best quality they can get on the market?
Well, I think it all starts with the form factor. So instead of using like a jar or a sachet, it's actually in like a test tube that looks kind of weird and funny and scientific. We also avoid using the name instant coffee, so we call it no brew coffee, which is some super assistant there. It's no brew coffee because instant coffee has very bad sort of connotations or not great sort of brand image. So basically no brew coffee, which is amazing coffee you can have anywhere just by adding water, basically. But I mean, that's definitely a big challenge. I think our whole approach to the issue is very different, sort of given my background and I guess sort of the branding that's much closer to the sort of so-called third wave, Blue Bottle or some of the larger coffee shops would be.
Hi, and congratulations for the round. I've got 2 questions. In your go-to-market strategy, is it the plan to make it a subscription-based product? And the second question is, when thinking about CRV, which is a fantastic firm, are you looking for their brand expertise, or what was the reason for picking this investor rather than someone else?
So yeah, we sell it mainly as a subscription through our website right now, and it's live now. So we've been shipping that for about since the spring as a subscription. And in terms of brand, yeah, for sure, CRV. Out of all the VCs we talk with, we were really like our partner had been looking to invest in a company that does caffeine as a subscription. So actually the whole process of getting a term sheet only took a week. We met them on a Wednesday and then again on Thursday and then 2 partners on Friday and full partnership on Monday. And they basically decided to move. So we were very impressed with their kind of decisiveness, how quickly they were moving and how enthusiastic they were about it. And they also have Sargur, who's one of their partners, as a great sort of, we were really impressed about how he was approaching and talking about the branding stuff.
I know you want to keep your secret sauce secret, but can you tell us about the magnitude of the scalability change when you went from operating a Marzocco manually to whatever you do now? And I know you had to hold on to a high quality standard. So how much did you cut on the cost side?
So we actually sold our first coffee as sort of a holiday pack a year ago. And we worked like 3 weeks and we were enough to make like 60 packs. We were making something like 50 cups of coffee per week to start with. And now last week we made about 20,000 cups. So it's kind of scaled quite a bit from there, couple orders of magnitude. And we're now at a point, what's exciting about instant coffee and also why CRE would invest in a coffee company is that instant coffee is one of the only, probably the only product in coffee that is actually truly scalable. It's built for scale. It works with huge equipment. That's what sort of Nescafe has shown. And what we want to do now is just make sure that we can actually keep it tasting great.
And thank you very much, Kalle Frese from Sudden Coffee. Thank you.